Okay, so while the mercury pushes up in there, I got red on in here, and we got red at the top over here. And hey, look, Detroit looks like they're going to be a dynasty, but not yet. Not yet. Bit of a setback. Not in the regular season, though. Regular season, they're 36, 16, and 18. There's a lot of ties. A lot. Montreal 28, 23, and 19, like an inordinate amount of ties over a 70-game schedule. Boston's 28, 29, and 13. That's right, only two teams above 500. Buffalo. Chicago 27, 28, and 15. See, when you've just done a Buffalo video most recently, you're going to spit. Anyway. Toronto 27, 30, and 13. That's right, the Toronto Maple Leafs missed the playoffs. And not wanting to go to the playoffs because the circus is probably in town. The New York Rangers at 17, 37, and 16. It's an important season because, again, we're starting to see some legends coming into the game. The Blackhawks improve. Why? Because they grab Al Rollins from Toronto in a deal for, in part, Harry Lumley goes to Toronto. Harry Lumley has 10 shutouts that year, but Rollins, a little bit of, you guys think you can trade me? All right, he puts in a great performance for Chicago, and they make it to the playoffs at the expense of the Maple Leafs. So out of 27 wins, 10 of those are by shutout. So we're in that era where goal scoring is still there, but it's starting to come down, and goalies are looking really good. Because Jacques Plante, Glenn Hall, and Gump Worsley all start their careers this season. It's a pretty impressive list of goaltenders, isn't it? Gordie Howe gets 95 points. 49 of them are goals. So he's one goal short of the record set by Maurice Richard of 50. And 95 points is a brand new record, breaking his own record, which had been 86 before that. So Gordie Howe is genuinely the mega star of the league right now. And a big part of the reason why the Red Wings finish so high up, they get a President's Trophy, which doesn't exist yet. And is that a curse? We'll find out. On November 8th of 1952, Maurice Richard gets his 325th goal. Right now, that's a good total. That was the highest total in NHL history to that stage. November 1st, 1952, the first nationally televised game is held on CBC. We're not in Hockey Night in Canada region yet, but we're getting there. Toronto beat Boston in that game 3-2. As you see, Boston still got the last laugh. Toronto missed the playoffs. December 6th, 1952, Chicago and Detroit play game in Indianapolis because neither of their arenas were available. This is back when schedules were done by hand. And this was all supposed to be figured out before that. So that's kind of a big whoops. Or, it's December. Maybe there was snow. Maybe there was roof cave-in. Who knows? It was the Olympia. You just never know. Richard. So again, we're with Maurice. I almost said Henri, and I'm like, no, Shannon, we're not in Henri Richard territory. Maurice Richard, January 29th of 1953, becomes the first player to have 10 20-goal seasons in a row. And now, again, 10 20-goal season, that's pretty good. But again, this was the first, and some would argue that Richard was the first real sniper in NHL history, and probably one of the greatest. Hart Trophy goes to Gordie Howe of Detroit. Art Ross goes to Gordie Howe of Detroit. The Calder goes to Gump Worsley of the New York Rangers. The Vezina goes to Terry Sawchuk of the Detroit Red Wings, as once again they allow the fewest goals in the league. The Lady Byng goes to Red Kelly of the Detroit Red Wings. And with that said, we get to the playoffs. So the semifinals, Detroit beats Boston 7-0 in Game 1. And this is why old school guys say you don't run up the score. Game 2, Boston comes out and beats Detroit 5-3. Game 3, Boston wins 2-1 in overtime. Game 4, Boston wins again 6-2. Then in Game 5, Detroit wins at home 6-4. Boston wins 4-2 to win it in 6. So Detroit destroys Boston. Game 1 is all Detroit, and Boston wins 4-5. So the sub-500 Bruins defeat the defending champion Red Wings, and it's a setback for the Red Wings. So who's going to take that spot? There's a spoiler that I've got on. So Montreal plays Chicago. Chicago with Al Rollins. Montreal wins games 1 and 2 at home, 3-1 and 4-3. Chicago evens that up by winning at home 2-1 in overtime and 3-1. Chicago then wins in Montreal 4-2 to go up 3 games to 2. Can they defeat the Montreal Canadiens? No. Montreal wins in Chicago 3-0. Montreal wins at home 4-1. Montreal plays Boston in the Stanley Cup final. This is a very bad matchup. I just got to throw that out there. It happens a lot. Montreal wins 4-2. Boston wins 4-1 in Montreal to tie the series at 1. We're going home. Doesn't matter. Montreal wins 3-0. Montreal wins 7-3. And then in Game 5, Montreal wins 1-0. Now, the first 4 games of the series, Boston had to use their backup because their starter was hurt. Really doesn't matter. I don't think you would have beat Montreal if both goalies had been in net for those 4 games. They were that good. So Montreal wins the Stanley Cup in 5 games, and they do it as a team that's only 5 games above 500. Because there's a lot of parity if you don't include the Rangers. If the Rangers just don't exist, there's tons of parity in this league. Include the Rangers, not so much. But Gump Worsley, Calder Trophy, because he's a damn fine goaltender, just not playing in a very good team. But there you go. 1953, Montreal's your Stanley Cup champions. They'll be winning at least a few more that I can remember. 3 or 4 or 5, it's going to be a lot. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys for being out there. It makes it worth being in here, despite the heat. I'll talk to you again soon.